Hello, I'm Tricia Pummill. I'm a graduate student in the master's program pursuing my master's in with a British concentration, even though I keep going back and forth between British and American. My background is that I'm a lawyer and I practiced law for 30 years. So I went to Cornell Law School back in the 80s and was a local prosecutor here in San Diego at the DA's office and city attorney's office. So when I came back to pursue literature, I decided to mix my two interests, and I'm looking at literature and law. And specifically, last semester I looked at the Mary Barton book by Elizabeth Gaskell, and I looked at the Victorian legal system there and how it fails the starving poor and how she's very critical of the failure to overturn the Corn Laws and other things that are necessary. They don't get justice in the courts. They don't get justice from the Parliament. It's a pretty bleak picture. And she proposes it's a Christian view of we should all love each other and we're responsible for our fellow man as a way to address these rifts in society. This semester my focus is three American pieces. One is The Crucible by Arthur Miller, published in 1952, dealing of course with the Salem witch trials. I'm sure you're all familiar with it. Inherit the Wind by Lawrence and Lee, which was published in 1955 and deals with the Scopes monkey trial, which was where Mr. Scopes was a school teacher and he taught evolution in violation of Tennessee state law, which required you had to teach creation and only creation. And then the Book of Daniel by E.L. Doctorow, which was published in 1971 and deals with the Julius and Ethel Rosenberg, who were tried and executed in 1953 for being communists. The connecting thread with these three pieces is that I see them as punishing thought, or at least that's the way these authors are portraying them. I think they add some additional facts to really make that point, but that is a problem. We're punishing witchcraft, we're punishing, which is an alternate to the Christian viewpoint, evolution, as instead of the, again, biblical, and communism as opposed to capitalism. It's not punishing action, and that's a major part of our Anglo-American criminal justice system, is that you punish acts, not thoughts. So these run afoul of something that we hold very dear, that we see as a basic right, that we do not get punished for our thoughts. The rights that are denied in these works are the presumption of innocence, which is a common law right, that the defendant in a criminal case has a right to stand mute, and the prosecutor has to prove him guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. And in each of these cases, very little evidence is put in, and then basically a raw accusation, and then the defendant is required to defend himself and prove that he did not have these thoughts. In the Crucible, the assistance of counsel is denied to the witches, or the alleged witches, and that's a violation of the Constitution, Fifth Amendment. In Inherit the Wind, we see a failure of the court to entertain a motion to challenge the constitutionality of the law, and in fact, even on appeal, it was held to still not violate the Constitution. Later on, in the 1970s, another case by the U.S. Supreme Court held that it was unconstitutional, was an establishment of religion to require that teachers teach only the biblical version of creationism. In the Book of Daniel, we have a violation of the ex post facto law, which is also in our Constitution, Article 1. That prohibits punishing somebody for something that was lawful at the time they did it. So you, after the fact that they did it, you make it against the law, and then you prosecute them for it. And the Rosenbergs and the Isaacsons, the fictional characters here, are tried for their acts which occurred prior to the law being implemented on a theory of conspiracy. The problem is that we have overzealous prosecutors and we have complicit judges. Everyone's in a state of hysteria. And in all three cases, the appeals do not correct the injustice. So this is another situation where these authors are using the literary form to critique these issues in our society, and they're catching issues and making critiques where the courts failed to do so. The appellate courts didn't fix this problem. The novelists or the playwriters step in and point this out to us, and shame on the legal system. They're focusing us on that issue. Am I done?
10 seconds.
Okay, I'm also connecting this to why would they write these at the times that they did. The first two authors were writing during the time of McCarthyism, probably one of the greatest challenges to our constitutional rights. And Dr. Rowe was writing during the beginning of the Vietnam War protests. So he was obviously concerned that what had happened in the 50s may get repeated in the 70s.